So appreciative of the fans for all the support they've given me, my family, and this football team. And it's with just so many fond memories and thoughts that I think about the Patriots, and I'll always be a Patriot. I look forward to coming back here, but at this time, we're gonna move on, and I look forward, excited for the future, but always very, very appreciative of the opportunity here, the support here, and what you've done for me. Thank you.
Welcome in. Here we go. I'm here with my good friend. First live episode we've gotten to do with Tackling Life Together, but here we go, episode 6. As we're starting this thing off, Josh Allen just ripped off a 50-yard run that was absolutely awesome.
I didn't want to interrupt Belichick for his presser that you were playing there. I'm hoping that audio went through clearly, but I had to hold back because Josh Allen just ripped off a 52-yard run.
But yeah, to start us off, so a lot has happened since we've caught up. That, to start off with, was former New England Patriots head coach, one of the best coaches of all time, in his goodbye press release with the New England Patriots. So Bill Belichick is gone from the New England Patriots. We've had a lot of other big things happen. I mean, Nick Saban retires, and then Mike's kind of in the middle of a little bit of a downer right now. Been a tough 48 hours coming off of the end of the Cowboys season, but a lot of big headlines, and thought that was kind of a fitting way to start it off, Beats, here in our first Boston episode.
Yeah, pretty crazy news. I was leaving work, and I saw somebody text me about Nick Saban, and it just goes to show how committed these guys are to their jobs. I actually started to look up what recruit he lost, or if somebody had a violation, or if somebody on his team did something bad, because there's no way in my mind there's any reason for him to retire. I feel like in my mind I pictured these guys coaching themselves into the grave, but I guess Saban is going to move on to better pastures and spend time with the family and whatnot, so good for him. And a real changing of the guard in college football. I mean, this has been all we've known since 2008. I mean, this guy has the craziest resume. The real GOAT debate for coaches in team sports is going to come down to a Belichick versus Saban argument, at least in the football conversation. And it's a fun conversation to have because both of them have resumes that are ludicrous. They're just full of eye-popping stats. One of the stats that I pulled up, and I honestly didn't know, I believe it because there's no way this is false information, and I read through it, and it holds water, but no class Saban recruited at Alabama ever went 4 years without winning a title. Yep. So if you got recruited and you just stuck around all 4 years, you didn't transfer, you didn't go pro, you won a natty. There was a natty in your fortune. That's unbelievable. I couldn't even imagine.
Yeah, it was such a weird 24 hours for me because obviously being a Bama fan and then being a Patriots fan was just so blessed to have gotten to see both those, and obviously the Patriots one ends a little bit uglier than the Alabama tenure, but just so much that those guys did, and obviously as many championships as we had in New England, but really the Bama one I think hit me a little bit harder because I saw the Bill one coming for quite a while, just the way that it was trending. I thought Nick Saban maybe had another year, but just he is, and I know it's going to be a debate, but in my opinion, Mike, I think the way that Nick Saban evolved over time and the way that he connects with his players now, you can't say the same with Nick that you did with Bill Belichick. Bill to the end, and even whatever tenure is coming up, the future for him, we'll talk about it, he stuck to who Bill Belichick was. Nick Saban has changed so much throughout his time and, still remained to his core detail-oriented and character and program, competitive championship-driven program. But the way he's changed and gone from a defensive-oriented to understanding, I think it was 2014 when he had Lane Kiffin, he went off and said, for a long time I thought and knew the best players in the football would play on the defensive side of the ball. It's no longer the case. And he said that in 2014. So, he kind of understood and adopted pretty early kind of the modern offense and kind of how he connects with his players is something that, college football won't be the same without Coach Saban for sure.
No, that's fair. And I guess just for the point of the fun of the conversation, if I was to side with Bill Belichick, there was a point after the second little 3 and 4 years that Eagles, Falcons, Rams run. And I'm missing one of the Super Bowls in there that you guys had won. The Seahawks won in 2014.
The first one.
So that second sort of run, there was a period right after that had ended where Bill Belichick, as a member of a coaching staff, either at the DC, the assistant head coach, or the head coach, had been to 20% of all Super Bowls that had ever happened. 20%. He went to 1/5 of them, either as the DC of the Giants when he was the assistant head coach in '96 for the Patriots, or then when he took over and went to an absurd amount of Super Bowls with the Patriots as the regular head coach. The guy clearly gets football, and one of my favorite little nuggets is that he's really coached all over the field. He started off as a Lions wide receivers coach in 1977. I'd give anything to have watched him teaching people, probably back then, mostly on a block. But, I would just love to see Bill, like, all right, you got to stick right here. You really got to put your foot in the ground. I would give a lot of money to see that.
Yeah, I mean, he deserves the endless flowers, like, despite how things went at the end, and I think fans just need to, I think the time's coming, they're going to have the video board, and he's going to have his moment, but, what he was able to accomplish in the 20 years in the NFL with the cat, like, we'll have our time for criticizing him, and, it's happened, how things ended, but, nothing, like, easily the greatest professional coach of all time. It's not even fucking close. And just same thing, like, the way that Bill did things and held people to a standard, and man, this Steelers team is really bad.
Yeah, I know. Mason Rudolph's an atrocious quarterback. I like the story of Bill holding people to such a standard that a guy crashed his car on purpose because he was going to be late to a meeting. So he was like, it's better to get in a car crash than to tell Bill I was late to a meeting. Does that mean he's a dictator and kind of a psychopath? Yeah, but it's football. Relax. All right? He won a lot. And frankly, I'm excited for the possibility of him coaching my dog shit organization.
I said that to you on the phone, and I know you didn't want to hear it because at the time you're still in the playoffs. But I think it's a no-brainer. We can get into it in a little bit too. But like the fit for Bill Belichick and the Cowboys right now, I think they need such a culture change, and Bill's the guy to come in and screw those nuts and bolts tighter. They're a top 5 roster in the NFL right now, talent-wise, and it seems that way year in, year out. But just like the stupid little penalties and turnovers and not showing up in the big moments, and that's what Bill does better than anyone. So it's like, who else would you want to run your program than Bill Belichick if you're just one coach away?
All right, well, speaking of culture changes, we'll circle back to college, and then we'll get into the NFL. It'll give me a little more time to grieve before we talk about my funeral a little further. Big coaching change. The hottest topic, obviously, over the last week was who was going to replace Saban. I was of the belief that if I was a coach, I wouldn't even want to replace Saban. It has nothing to do with the glitz and glamour of Bama. That's obviously the coaching job of a lifetime. Is it a case where you can't live up to the guy before you? You are asking to fall short of expectations? Or do you think Kellen DeBoer is the right kind of guy to follow in? He quickly took Washington and ascended them vertically, right? Their transformation over a 2 to 3 year period there was awesome. He's bringing his OC with him, so Tommy Reese's terrible play calling out the door. I don't know if you like the Kellen DeBoer thing. I'm just nervous for the poor guy because the minute he doesn't win 12 games next year, if God forbid something like that doesn't happen, they're going to be calling for his head right away. Saban had earned himself grace when it came to that, but he also won 12 games pretty much every year. I'm pretty sure he had no 3-loss seasons except maybe the first year.
Wait a few, yeah. But yeah, so Kellen DeBoer is an interesting, and I think the rise too is something fascinating that like not scares me a little bit, but this guy's like 4.5 years removed from being the Indiana University offensive coordinator. Like things move fast. Like him building Washington and then it coming down. I think what will lend him some credence to the fans, and he said it in his introductory press conferences. He said that it's an open door policy. Like he wants Nick Saban to be around and involved. Now, I think he was partially joking, and he said that Nick's going to have a lot of thoughts for him every day. But he even said he was like steadfast. Like, I want one thing from Nick every day when we sit down in my office. Like, how can we do better? What are we doing that's not? So it's not going to be like a close the door and this is a new era. Obviously, it is with DeBoer taking over, but I think Nick's going to be around the program, and I think to speak to what you said though, like super unfair with just I think the way that college football is going. Like
these expectations are about to be insane.
I think Nick knew it though too, where it's like college football is changing, and I had this discussion with someone the other day. Like it's getting closer to college basketball, where I think there's going to be instead of 3 or 4 teams every year, like I think with the NIL, the transfer portal, ability to go get veteran and experienced college football players and be able to contribute right away. I think Syracuse is one of those teams. Like, I don't know if they're going to be that this year, but to go get Kyle McCord and 8 other transfers and then some other transfers from other schools, like, you know what I mean? Like, teams are going to be able to become good fast. So, like, there were years that Alabama wasn't going to have to worry about Syracuse or what are they, like, but if all of a sudden you have this really talented team that you built through the portal and you built through NIL, it's just changing. I think some of the powers are going to start shifting. Like, I don't expect to see a back-to-back winner in the next few years with the 12-team playoff. And I think that you're right. If Bama fans can't curb their expectations a little bit with the way that college football is going, and it's going to take a little bit of time. I'm excited for the OC to work with Jalen Milroe. I think you should see him take a little bit of a step forward.
Jalen Milroe deserves some apologies from Bama fans. Not you. I'm not talking about you yourself. You were never really anti-Milroe. I think you were more anti how they were using him. But people were really bashing the poor guy, and his numbers by the end of the year ended up being pretty exceptional. He was a solid quarterback. There were limitations in his abilities, but I'm sorry he's not, at least I'm sorry he's not 2019 Joe Burrow, right? We can't all have that kind of thing. But I thought Jalen Milroe was a solid player with a weak offensive line, which is not something usually you characterize an Alabama football team with. I do think the 12-team playoff, the combining of conferences, is going to do two things. I do think it'll level the very top of the playing field a little, but I am worried that there's going to be an enormous separation. I think the upper class is about to become a little bit bigger, but there is going to be no more middle class. There won't be a middle class football anymore, because I don't really see a world where if you're not in the Big Ten or the SEC, because the Pac-12 now is not a thing.
Don't we have to see where it goes, though? So this was something that I wanted to put something on our Instagram out. So Malachi Nelson was a 5-star quarterback. In my opinion, he was the best quarterback in his class. He was a freshman this year at USC.
He's a stud.
And so he was going to be the next guy at USC. So his transfer is why I think there is going to be a middle class. So obviously there's some stuff to figure out. Where do these Mountain West teams figure in? But I was talking about the front. If you go 11-1, how can you keep? So sorry, I should have finished it. So Malachi Nelson is transferring to Boise State. You're saying that, but there was 4 teams this year. There's 12 teams moving forward. Malachi Nelson is now at Boise State. You have these kids now, 5-star talents. You can start building some of these teams, and it might be a short window. But if you have a 2-3 year window with Boise State, and now when you hit the recruiting road, hey, we have this obviously, whether they're actually going to be able to win one or not, but it seems like there's at least this road that's opened up for you to, if you can get the boosters built in. I agree. If you don't have the money, you're not going to be able to compete, and it's going to be a hapless effort. But if you're a school, not that they have a huge NIL right now, but like Rice University, somebody that used to be in a huge conference, they have a shit ton of oil money. They're in Dallas. I think there's going to be these schools that might have the opportunity to build something. Is this foolhardy? I don't know.
No,
why.
I just worry that, if you go 11-1 with Boise State, you've got that. You'll most likely make the 12-team playoff. But I just look back on what they did to a Florida State team who was way better. And yes, it was in a 4-team world. I just worry about them wanting to invite too many teams that played a weaker schedule. It seems like the committee is very favorable to the teams full of known jerseys, helmets that are easily recognizable. Boise State is an exception. They had their little run in the early 2010s, so I feel like they might not be.
No, yeah.
But I do worry that if a Colorado State or something, just to pick a random school, really popped off one year and was 10-2, but they showed that they could play some exceptional ball, I don't know if they're going to be let's let multiple teams from
Who's
the
the 2 losses to, though? You know what I mean? If Colorado State, I think this is where you got to, if Colorado State goes down and beats Oklahoma State and then they lose by 7 to Clemson, you know what I mean? And then they train in the conference schedule, for the exact reason that, we were upset about Florida State not getting in. The 12 team, and we also said it, I'll go to the grave. If this 12 team wasn't coming, they would not have screwed Florida State over. They wouldn't have put
Florida State.
They totally kind of fell back. It was this excuse. It was almost a pick there. This is not good for us. The future, first time recording a game with an NFL playoff game.
We get live reactions, and I'm a huge Josh Allen fan. This is my boy right here. We need something out of Josh. I just worry that we could live in a world where these Power 5 teams, these Group of 5 teams, or whatever the group of number is going to be, right, with the shifting colleges dying out.
That's what worries me. I don't know what it's going to look like.
I don't even know what
we could be saying this.
Is there ever going to be a world where we make a genuine argument that, you guys know Northern Illinois is really running the MAC this year. Should we put them in the 12? I'd be fine with it. I think it could be entertaining. I just don't think, based on what, I'm not saying what I think it should be. I'm saying how I think it will be. Based on what we've seen from the committee, I don't foresee them wanting to give these smaller schools a a decent chance unless they really show out. Like, I honestly think if you were, like, again...
Do you not think that Liberty would have gotten a shot this year if
Yeah.
there was 12 teams?
Nope.
Didn't they have one loss?
I think unless they make a rule that they
Can you
have
pull
to
up?
invite... Yeah, I'll pull up the rankings. But if you made a rule that you had to invite one team, and wasn't Tulane, like, undefeated or almost undefeated or something? It looks like Liberty wasn't even ranked. Oh, no, here they are, 13-1. So this is something that I think kind of helps the favor.
Interesting.
These rankings are created by the committee. Again, the committee is an imperfect, frankly, bad committee.
It's an imperfect organism.
It's imperfect, and they had Liberty 13-1 going into the college football playoff. When they announced the rankings, they put Michigan, Washington, Texas, and Bama. Right, that same day they had to fill out the rest of the 25. That's a part of their duty. They had Liberty 13-1, ranked 23rd.
That's crazy.
They not only had to go up 10 spots just to be on the outside looking in by one spot. 13-1. I don't know. I just worry that there's going to be a real problem where these bottom half of these schools, the MACs, the guys in the Mountain West that are fighting, hell, the Sun Belt, right? These schools that people sometimes don't even associate with true Division I, where there's still good players playing. You and I went to go see a Troy game, and I saw a Troy, one of the tackles on Troy, I think it is transferring to one of the major schools. I forget where. And I was like, oh, perfect. So there's a Troy offensive lineman that was Power 5 good. He was just playing down there with Troy at the time. Sometimes it can be an oversight in your high school recruiting.
So that's, to counter myself, to use that Troy game just kind of caught me like, yeah, you might have teams like a Boise or a Syracuse that gets a lot of transfers in, but like, that is a big part of the reality, no doubt about it. Like, kids are going to be transferring out more. Like, so we said it in the original episode when we talked to Colin. Troy's running back for 2 straight off seasons was getting recruited actively by LSU. LSU trying to fill a hole in their roster, and Nick Saban said it a few weeks ago. He said that the NIL, the portal essentially is college free agency. So.
And I don't blame these coaches for going this direction either. Frankly, I think it's a wiser move to say, let's find kids who are older, stronger. They've learned a little bit more about themselves and offense and how they're going to behave with this new level of freedom and money nowadays with NIL. They can go for those kind of kids and say, you're more of a fit for my program. Why don't you come in and you'll be an immediate impact starter? I've gotten mad at Ryan Day over my own Ohio State Buckeyes for not going after more transfers at times to fill needs. This year we've grabbed a quarterback. We're going to grab Will Howard from Kansas State, and I'm hoping for great things out of that. But I worry that the pond that these big schools are going to fish in, and they're not dropping worms, they're dropping thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars into the lake there to grab these kids. Oh, I'm the best tackle Troy's seen in the last decade. Well, now I'm not at Troy. Now I'm playing tackle for Missouri. Okay. Again, it's going to become a little bit of a filter. I just want to see those schools get a little bit more justice to their name, because I worry that, and this is another point I have written down on our agenda to discuss, maybe we can just segue into this right now. I have a fear that these other college bowl games don't matter. Like, it's not even a fear, it's a fact. I don't think anyone really cares, and it goes beyond the fact that the NCAA allows the transfer portal to start during bowl games so kids can go, hey, I'm looking for greener pastures, I'm out of here, I'm not going to play in the Southwest Airlines Bowl or whatever. Like, I don't need to play in this game, I'm good, I'm out. I don't understand. None of the bowl games to me were interesting unless there was a draft prospect I knew I wanted to watch. Wow, okay, that was a cool animation. Unless there was a draft prospect I knew I wanted to watch, or the Pop-Tarts Bowl. They nailed it. I wanted to watch the Pop-Tarts Bowl. They captivated me. Good job. Edible mascot, I was all for it. Other than that,
I'm glad you said that.
Awful.
I hated it. The transferring early thing was crazy to me. Like that, I wish I had put some thoughts together before this. This is in the moment, but dude, the transferring before the season's over, and everyone I seem to bring it up to, because I thought people were going to feel similar to how I did. It was like people defending it. It's like, well, you might as well get out and make. And I get it. You want to find. This is somebody I was in the portal the first year that it was in it. Like I've been through the transfer process. Like, but you're going to have an opportunity. Like the season doesn't start in January. Like. I don't know. I hate it. If you have the opportunity to play, I know they're meaningless. Like you said, like you're playing in the Cheez-It Bowl or the Mayo Bowl, whatever it is.
You picked two of the better ones though, but yeah.
Imagine getting mayo dumped on you. That would just be.
I hate mayo. I wouldn't.
I hate mayo. That would be.
A mayo guy. Not really a sauce guy in general. But
I could like cut people from my team if they poured mayo on me. If we won the bowl,
I think I would just fight a man right there. Frankly, I have a fear that the only person in the wrong is still the NCAA, and they never change their mind on these things. Because if we need someone to be in the wrong, we need it to not be the NCAA, because as we know, they are hold fast and true to their opinions. Do I blame college kids who are making money that can genuinely impact their future, their lives, their families' lives in some cases, right, depending on where they come from? No, I know, I'm not putting words into your mouth. I'm just making a statement overall. I think I don't blame a single one of those kids if they go, hey, I could transfer to, Louisiana State and I could be an LSU Tiger and make a lot more money. I'm going to skip out on this bowl. Good for them. But letting the transfer portal open up, they allowed that to happen. Secondly, I've always believed in this from a young age. I've loved college football from the day I started watching sports, from the day I met you in like 8th grade. I think we both knew we both liked college football. I never understood why the barrier of entry into these college football bowl games was 6 wins. There are some putrid 6-win teams. And this year, because there wasn't enough 6-win teams, they let a 5-win team in. I forget who it was.
A few years in a row they've done that. Exactly. It lowers the floor.
Putrid.
So if you do 7-5, all right, the minimum, you got to be one game over 500. And then if you don't have enough, now you bring in a 6-16. Bring the best 6.
I'd be down for them to make the floor like 8 wins, 9 wins. So that way it's actually interesting. And then move the transfer portal out. So that way at the end of the season you can go, hey, these kids get one last hurrah before they go pro. We're going to get to see them. And it's this 8-win team. I've never once been super interested in watching like the Armed Forces Bowl between 2 6-win teams or the Dallas Desperado Bowl. I'm just making up stuff, honestly, at this point. Although I know the Armed Forces one is real. Shout out my brother Mark. But I don't know why anybody cares to watch these 6-win teams doing this thing. I just think it's a bad situation. And frankly, the only thing that I got excited about watching the Ohio State Buckeyes, my team, play Missouri, was I was literally told my roommate, I'm going to use this like an advanced spring game. I'm going to watch some of the young guys. Let's see who's going to do what. I almost wish that some of the kids who recruited to us, if you're going to open the transfer portal early, hell, let the kids who agreed to come here next year come play. I wanted to watch
That was a
Jeremiah
crazy.
Smith.
So two things that come from doing it early. 100%. It's on the NCAA. Like the kids don't control it. If you let the kids transfer, they're going to transfer. Like I don't blame them. But like the NCAA controls that, and they have to move it back. The Kyle McCord. I mean, dude, the Syracuse coach, and it's good for recruiting in that way. Like the Syracuse coach is wearing a Kyle McCord jersey on the sideline at their bowl game. Like, did you see that?
It was weird. It was very awkward.
And so another thing, so Georgia plays Florida State in a game that neither team wanted to be there. They both wanted to be in the playoffs.
And nobody.
But so
was there 40-something kids sitting out?
But look at how it hurts. So Florida State has all these kids that sit out, and now there's a Georgia commit. So Georgia commit goes to the game. He's on the sideline, and he originally was a Florida State commit, and so I think it was Twitter or an interview or something. He said, I would have been miserable if I was on that sideline for Florida State watching it. It's just one of those things, like, that's bad for business. It's bad for the school. It's bad for the team. Like, you have that incredible year that should have went to the playoffs, and now all of a sudden nobody shows up and you get beat down on national TV. I don't know how many people are watching it, but, like, when you let kids leave early, like, that's not good for recruiting. That's not good for Mike Norvell. It's not good for, not that I care about Florida State, but.
I do like the transfer portal giving more freedom to the kids. I think we're both on the side.
Just gotta move it back.
I think give them the power to rule their own lives. Finally, I don't know why the one thing in America where you don't get to control your name, image, likeness, everything about yourself is college sports. That never made any sense. You could do it before it and then after it, but not during it. Never made sense to me. One thing that I also felt I just didn't like it the way it rubbed me all bowl season was when I'd be watching these bowl games and I'd realize that there was like a 24-year-old man out there or a 25-year-old man. I know COVID was a problem and it ruined the college football season for many kids. There are like guys out here getting granted 7th and 8th year eligibilities. Like that needs to be done with by now. I saw somebody say it. I don't know who it was. It might
24 is not as bad, but
no, I know. I picked a random age. And there's kids who are old. I think you might have been the one who reposted it. I saw something on social media where a recruiting director was like, there are more players than there are spots available. Like, we actually
100%.
have a problem. There's a surplus of college football talent. And the only people who that hurts is the younger generation. Because, like it or not, the average 3-star offensive lineman stands no shot at beating out said 60-year senior who's still sticking around here, even though he blocked versus, fucking Joe Burrow's LSU team back in the day. Like, these kids don't stand a shot.
It was something that our head coach at Merrimack, when we used to go through the redshirt process our freshman year, Stephon Diggs is down on the ground here, but so that was the conversation. It's like, do you want to play at 18, 19 years old, or do you want to have a kid play at 23 years old? Like, the 23-year-old version of yourself is going to be better, and it's why teams want to hit the portal. And, like, no, you're right. Some kids are too old, but, like, that is one of those things. It's like, why you want to bring in, and it does. It hurts the high school kids because, like you said, I can go get a 23-year-old transfer from Fresno State, or I can go get an 18-year-old that is like 10% of grown into his body. This kid's a beanpole.
So this is what I want to see, and I've been thinking this for a little bit now. I think back to when recruiting freshmen became the big deal in college basketball, right? After they made that change about 2 decades ago to let kids, you have to go at least for 1 year, and then people realized, should we be going after freshmen super hard recruiting? Like, because before that, there was a long period of time where it was the older kids that really helped you win championships. And then John Calipari and that famous John Wall class, like, that changed the game a little bit. People were like, hey, we should really be running and gunning for the best freshmen, the kids who are going to be first overall next year. I want to see a group of well-connected via social media, just the 5-star quarterback, the 2 5-star wide receivers. They grab a couple O-linemen. I want them all to basically get in a group chat and be like, dude, let's find a cool, fun, Power 5 or group of 5 school where we know we can play, and we're going to go there, and we're going to show everyone that we're fucking better than these other schools, and we don't have to sit behind these guys 3 or 4 or 5 years older than me. I would love to see it, and I promise you, America would get behind said class of 2024 freshman team, and it's just all the, 4 years from now, top picks in the draft.
It's going to take somebody setting a precedent to make some of these athletic. I mean, I'm in an athletic department right now. It's hard to, when you're successful, you're going to come out in the green, but it's hard to come out in the green if you can't make a run. So it's going to take, like, a school like Ball State or Northern Illinois used earlier, like, unless they see that there's a model of success that they can go out, get transfers, get freshmen on NIL, and have success, they're probably not likely to really go attack it. But if all of a sudden, just to use them again, but like Boise State goes on a run here, and other schools are like, wait, we can invest some money and go on a 2-year run here and maybe go to the playoffs, like, I love it. Like,
so I thought about this too. I've thought through this idea in my bedroom late at night as I'm thinking about what could happen with freshmen in college playing football. What if it doesn't have to be a super small school? What if it's a school that's not a traditional football powerhouse but has money because of a collective boosters and donations from all sports combined?
Like West Virginia.
Maybe you look at it like a UConn. They have an established credibility in the basketball world, but maybe you look at their donors and you're like, hey, we're going to try to make a run at, and I'm just picking a random school, I'm sure there could be more qualified ones out there, but low-level, former Power 5 or current Power 5 teams that are like, we have the money, but we've never really cared about football enough for this. And then they pool a little bit of money together.
But they do.
And they go grab these 18-year, 19-year-olds, but you also need this to be a two-way street where the 18-year-old need to have thought of my idea of, like, how fun would it be if instead of I go sit behind the Clemson quarterback and you go sit behind the Bama running back, why don't we all go together and start? And then you get a coach who's also on board with this idea who says, there's going to be some growing pains at first.
Coach.
The coach has to be like, hey, I'm in for this. There's going to be growing pains. You guys are going to be children playing young adults at first. But I bet by year 2, maybe definitely year 3, this thing could look scary if we really get the pieces rolling. That's what I want to see happen. I don't know if it'll happen, but it'll happen in NCAA football when I eventually get the video.
Can't wait for that. But the coach really is going to be the thing, and I think Dan Lanning's kind of on it where, like, he really leaned into the Kalen DeBoer thing, like going to Bama. He said, if you don't know whether your coach is going to be back next year or not, come to Oregon. Like, it's one of those things. Like,
what about Sarkisian putting, like, his location down?
Sarkisian, like Kirby Smart, like, when you know that your coach is going to be there long term, and I think probably never expected this to be on my bingo card saying Syracuse this many times, but Syracuse's coach, like, he claims that there's nowhere else he'd rather be. That's a basketball school. I like the UConn idea. I mean, he just definitely cares because, dude, at one point, and they're not going to, so I think I can say this, but behind closed doors, we were having discussions at Providence. UConn was talking about bouncing to the Big 12, which was almost an entirely football move, and it would have really hurt the Big East, but like they definitely want to be good, so it's getting, like you said, get the right guy with the vision in that wants to be the Dan Hurley of the football program. Like, why wouldn't you want to be?
Come on.
And speaking of UConn, I had this written down. I don't know if we're going to talk a lot of basketball today, but
it.
UConn, number one for the first time in 15 years, Mike.
So every time a UConn men's team has been number one in the rankings at least 1 week, that team has made the Elite Eight. That comes from the greatest UConn men's basketball Twitter page called No Escalators. Check them out on Twitter. Hilarious. It could just be some kid. I have no idea.
Can we talk about that? Are you involved in like Big East Twitter?
Oh yeah.
I didn't know that this. So
I follow a lot of UConn basketball stuff growing up in the area, watching the games. My dad's an alum, and Ohio State basketball is kind of lackluster, so I try to follow the UConn guys.
So that was something that I've really picked up on since getting down to Providence, where being a New Hampshire guy, we don't have major college football or college sports where basketball, BC is the closest one. But you being a UConn guy, so two of my best friends at Providence, one's a UConn guy, went undergrad there, and then one's a PC guy. And like, they know all these names of the Twitter guys.
Yep.
Like, oh, I hate that guy, the DePaul Twitter guy. Like, but it's like this whole ecosystem. There's a Big East basketball biome that is just like fascinating. That
It's fun.
it is cool.
Everyone needs to get involved in it. Go give my boy No Escalators a follow. He's a fun guy. I don't know who the hell he is. It's a super funny name, too, on top of that. Yeah, college basketball is an interesting product because I feel like they've been able to ride the NIL wave better than football. And I don't know why it was so effective. It changed things in football. I felt like for a long time, even before NIL, in basketball, there was this real wave where the middle class wasn't going away. It was strengthening to a point where it started to feel like every year you could see more upsets. And the data backs that up. In the last 5 years, we've seen 2 16 seeds beat a 1 seed. Before that, the only time it had ever happened was in a women's game in like 99. Princeton upset Stanford, and I'm pretty sure it was because Stanford had all their best players hurt. Like, these things weren't happening, and we're seeing more and more of the field leveling out. The top-end talent still rises to the top, but we are seeing a little bit more of that. So I'm interested to understand kind of what about basketball made this different. Is it just the wear and tear on the body? It's a little bit easier to jump and stick around. In a minute, we're going to hop into a little bit of NFL talk. Brent, why don't we take a quick break, though, for a second?
Yep, let's do it.
I think we're live.
And we're back.
And we're back. Welcome back, everybody. That was my first time ever giving a break before. I listen to Bill Simmons do it all the time on his podcast, and I've always wanted to say, we'll be back in a second. There was no HelloFresh ad. But, if you want a discount on something, if you... what's the thing Jared Carabas does? If you buy 10 Clementines at Hannaford's, you get 1 free. So go ahead and go get some. Now, we're just talking a little college hockey, boys. If you're not watching college sports, there's a lot of fun college sports out there. I know a lot of our listeners are local to the area, being New England people. I went to my first college hockey game outside of being in college. Went to a BU versus UNH game in Agganis Arena in Boston. College hockey's electric. I watched the future first overall pick in next year's NHL draft, Macklin Celebrini, score not 1 but 2 goals. Second one was an empty netter, but still counts all the same. College hockey, electric. Brendan got to see BC play, didn't you?
Yep, yeah, we just played BC last night at Providence, won 4-3, and then a few years ago I went to Agganis is a nice arena. Agganis Arena is where BU plays, and I saw Jack Eichel when I was at Merrimack. I played Jack Eichel, and he is just...
There's a talent.
It was sick. There was like 20 pucks on the ice, and he just like took one and was weaving it out of it. It was like, that guy is crazy.
I love those stories of like pro athletes showing their separation from regular people. Regular people makes this sound so bad.
Did I tell you a story about Paige Buchers last year?
No, you saw Becker's live do something nuts?
Well, no, she was hurt last year, but when they came down to Providence,
I know her story. Yeah, go ahead.
She came down and just like pregame, she was messing around. Who's the other girl that was hurt? Fudd.
Yeah.
Fudd was hurt also.
Fudd.
So they were just chucking up half quarters. Paige takes 4 different half court shots from like far left, middle right, far right. Bang, 4 straight, like,
my girl.
Well, like nothing but net. Not like, barely hit that one, like barely touching the net, just like kind of giggles and taps Fudd and just like jogs off the court.
Yeah.
It's like, that's not normal what you just did. Like that was. So
Dude,
we got to get down there and watch her play.
No, well, that's definitely happening.
March 2nd, I think it is.
This is her senior year. This is my last chance to watch her before I get a new favorite WNBA team, and then I go full allegiance that way. So we'll see where she goes. Hopefully she goes.
Is she your favorite UConn player ever?
My favorite UConn women's player ever that I've seen.
Yeah, woman.
She's electric. I think before that, my favorite probably would have been like Maya Moore. I used to go watch her play when I was like a young kid in
Not a
Connecticut.
Sabrina?
Sabrina went to Oregon, so I was never
INSQ. Yeah.
I'm never really an INSQ
Yeah.
kind of person. I'm hoping Paige gets drafted by the Chicago Sky because my good friend DJ is a Chicago Sky fan, so it'd be fun to team up.
Why?
We picked WNBA teams during COVID, and I told him my team was on pause until Paige goes pro, and then I'll have it. But yeah, so that's a little bit of what I'm excited for in the college basketball world. I do watch the women's basketball when it gets to be the tournament and stuff, and if UConn has any big games, team's struggling a little bit this year, but we'll see. There's lots of good college sports out there.
Speaking of good college sports, I'm going to do this because this guy next to me
You don't have to.
is not going to do this.
We talked about this.
So we had a college football season that ended as well. We talked about coaches leaving, but so the University of Michigan, congratulations to them, 15-0. And I think it just, I'm going to use it as a transition because I think the way that they went and got this one this year is a way that teams are going to start, the big teams. Ohio State just did it, actually. They kind of built a little bit of blueprint, whether you like it or not. So Michigan, they were the first team to kind of like not even care about hiding it. So they created something absolutely awesome, NIL. They called it the One More Year in Blue Fund last year. And essentially they got their boosters to fundraise to bring back Zach Zinter, their guard, Blake Corum, their running back, Will Johnson, the corner, and then I think it was Cornelius Johnson, the wide receiver. But to actively bring back this whole crew, like we're going to go after a national championship. Obviously, they had their problems this year. Only coach I've ever seen to get suspended twice in one season. Like, very, very strange, but heck of a season. Just credit to the players more than, we won't make this thing about Harbaugh and the coaches, whatever they did, but J.J. McCarthy and those guys. So, quite a run. If it's not a low snap for Bama on the last play, who knows? But
the blocking was set up, damn it. I was so ready to watch Milroe pound it into
that's
the
an
end zone.
annoying ass way to lose, man. Like a low snap on a quarterback run is just
All he had to do was hit the far left C gap right there, far left.
Yeah.
The left side C gap. It was there. It was open. I mean, he would have had to kind of go through someone, but you got to make the first man miss. He had it. It was there.
They ran that play multiple times that game and it worked. So that was disappointing. But throw it out there once. Congrats to Michigan But really, the grad transfer, or not the grad transfer, but bringing everyone back, I think was a model of success. I mean, Ohio State, how many guys have we already brought back for Ohio State this year? We'll transition to the team you do want to talk about.
No, it's okay. I can give
you know
some
what I mean?
flowers.
Like, that's one of those things where it's like, it made me laugh last year because I was taking a college sports business class at the time, and like, not hiding it, like, the One More Year in Blue Fund, like that kind of tickled me a little bit, where it's like, yeah, all right, we'll see, and for it to work out as good as it did.
Let me see. I can pull it up how many guys we've gotten to return Ohio State football, but all right, I'll give a little bit of flowers to those jerks up north. Good for them. It's probably not going to happen again, so whatever. I'm not happy about it. But this year has started off like a car crash in my mouth. They win a national title for the first time since I was literally born. No, get the thumbs up out of here. Turn those lights off, damn. They win a national title for the first time since '97, and then my Dallas Cowboys got curb stomped, like a drunk person kicked out of the bar and then beat up on by everyone waiting in line. It was brutal. We're recording this after the Cowboys game, and as you've heard us mention, we're watching the Bills-Steelers game, and there's still the Eagles-Bucks game to come. So we're going to record an NFL episode in the coming days once the whole thing is, we've seen it all happen. But sure, I'll give a little bit of flowers to those jerks in maize and blue or whatever. But I am excited about the guys coming back for Ohio State. We're bringing back Emeka Egbuka. I guess we did follow the blueprint that they made, but we're going to do it better is my hope. Well,
One more year in Scarlet. And
we're going to do it the same. We're going to win a goddamn title. Emeka Egbuka, Travion Henderson's coming back. Donovan Jackson's coming back. JT Tulamulie's coming back. Jack Sawyer's coming back. Lethan Ransom's coming back.
It's crazy. A lot of those
Denzel
guys,
Burke's
bro.
coming back. We're going to have the best defense in the country next year, and it's not even close. And if Will Howard can step in and be an excellent transfer quarterback, and I've liked all the things I've seen from him, all the times people have put a mic in his face, the only thing he mentions is focus on the game. And if there's any way to win over Ohio State fans, it's to show them that you care about the rivalry as much as they do. So I think this kid's got a good head on his shoulders. I like the videos I've watched of him
Big
throwing
body,
the ball.
6'5", 245.
Can really sling the ball, and I think that's something we needed because I don't think Kyle McCord was bad. He really got destroyed by fans all year, kind of unfairly. I think there was other problems. He wasn't amazing, and I don't even know if Will Howard's going to come in and be 2019 Burrow, but I do think he's going to give us a more capable downfield threat throwing the ball, which will be nice.
I haven't thought about this until I don't know how far I'll get to go to the thought, but like the Kyle McCord situation really reminds me, and I think it shows to how it didn't work out in New England. The Kyle McCord situation is very similar, in my opinion, to the Mac Jones. Homegrown kid, wasn't recruited very high.
Have at it.
Waits his time for a few years and just kind of falls into the role because everyone else leaves. And so it's kind of, that's the juxtaposition of that, where it's like Mac gets his one opportunity, incredible team that's around him, and he played pretty well in college, and then from there he gets an opportunity to go be a first-round pick, where it's like Kyle McCord, same thing, like two not the most talented guys in their room ever. I would say not even the best quarterback in their room at the time that they were the starter.
No, probably not.
And then so I think that's part of the thing with Mac too. I talked to somebody from Jacksonville, and it's funny hearing people that were a little closer to him that don't look at him as like, just like, yeah, like, oh, I saw his name on ESPN. Like, knew people that was like, I saw him play in high school, and it just like, that kid went to Bama. It was one of those things where, you know, the recruiting process is so weird because once you choose a school, it's like you're kind of like locked in there, but people forget. I mean, I've gone through where it's like, oh, you went to Merrimack, like, that's fine. It's like, yeah, but Princeton and Dartmouth, and the list is typically bigger. Like, Mac Jones really was probably a University of Central Florida player.
Yeah.
And then so for him to go to Bama and just gets his opportunity, like, I think that was kind of the Kyle McCord situation where it's like, oh, you waited your turn, it's your job, and unfortunately it didn't work out. But even Devin Brown, I like the quarterbacks that they have now moving forward.
Yeah, and we got a great 4-star, on some sites 5-star quarterback coming in named Aaron Nolan. So I think there's room for growth there. But I do think it'd be interesting to be able to start to see if this becomes a bit of a case study on how many teams out there look at their junior classes of guys or their redshirt sophomores and say, don't go pro, here's a check, and we would like you all to run it back together, right? That camaraderie goes a long way. One of our good friends, Joe, made a parallel to when, and this is kind of comparing mountains to molehills, but like when we all played football together in high school, there was a class of you, me, and a lot of guys our age and then 1 year below us, and we were being held back fairly by kids older than us by 2 years who were the starters and already there, and then they graduated, and then it became our team, right? And then you kind of are doing this thing together. You're going through each of these battles with the people to your left and right. You kind of feel like you're there with them. That's what's going to happen for Ohio State next year. Is Emeka Ibuka is going to know the names of every guy to the locker, to his left, to his right. He's going to know everyone, and he'll learn the new kids coming in, and it's going to be like a thing where people really feel connected, having spent this much time together. Defensive room, offensive room, special teams room. It's going to be something. There's going to be a lot of camaraderie.
I appreciate you setting the precedent so people weren't like, oh, you guys think you're the...
Oh, we were amazing.
But
we were the
shit.
shit.
So I actually agreed with Joe. Like, I'm not going to play it down. Like, I think
we were awesome.
In principle, like, it is the same thing. Like, when you have that group, and I think I'll use Virginia as well. So us in high school, we ended up losing to tag into it. I think when you lose so ugly and there's so much pain behind it, and then you bring the group back. So, I always thought that with Virginia. I told people that when they lost to UMBC.
Yeah.
It sounds like revisionist history, but it's not. Like, when you lose so bad and you have another opportunity, and every single morning when you wake up, it's all you're thinking about.
And
it's all your friends are thinking about. Like,
same group comes back.
So it's like, that's all we thought about. I woke up, essentially we lost in November of 2013. From the next morning, I never even watched the film from that playoff game, truthfully.
I got you sacked pretty bad in it.
That just sucked. That was so miserable. It just gave me goosebumps thinking about it. That was miserable. It's the only playoff game that we've lost at home, for our group at least. But so when you have everyone that's just so solely, the flow state, you have everyone so solely focused on one thing, and Virginia loses to UMBC, they bring them back the next year. If you're going to tell me that was not all they thought about every single day since that happened. Like,
there was nothing else to think about.
And you go win a national championship the next year. Michigan, gets an opportunity since they lost last year to what I didn't think was a very good TCU team. When you have a group that's back and so focused, like, that Ohio State team is going to be so ready and focused.
Speaking of tape, I wonder if I can find the highlight tape I put together of me as a long snapper in high school. It's electric tape. I also have a tape of me getting rocked, but I also wonder if I can find the video of the... in that playoff game Brent's talking about, where we were getting pantsed, we were in about 10 yards off our own end zone, and we ran a play.
Oh, I remember
It
this.
was a regular pass play that we run all the time. I think it was 18 power pass with just a little roll to the right off of a play action. And for whatever reason, I thought I called for someone to do something and they didn't do it. And I just let a kid right off my left shoulder run free. And I remember looking at the tape like, I got Brent rocked. Thank God he's a big boy and he can handle it, because I would have gotten hurt from that hit. The kid came off the line clean. I didn't even touch him. I literally was like, oh, Davis will get him. For whatever reason, I thought that. He didn't.
That was one of 2 games. It never happened until years later, actually. I played a playoff game against Boston in semi-pro. Dude, that game plan was so good. Like, I've always thought, and we'll move on from this quick. I don't know how we got onto this, but dude, even against really good quarterbacks, like Bill Belichick did it to Lamar one time. Like, they put a quarterback spy on the left and on the right. And if I even fake handoff and jogged out to the left, somebody was hitting me in the head, putting me on the ground. It was a cold day, too. If I went to the right, somebody smacked me in the head, put me on the ground again, where it's like,
Hardest part of your body, top of your head.
after a while, it's like, I don't want to deal with this anymore. Like, man, they got 3 guys on me. And so, that, fuck Trinity, beat the bag out of them the next year. But,
Well, is there any other college notes that we can get to? I mean, obviously the NFL, we're going to bring it up tomorrow. I don't know if there's anything else pressing that you've been wanting to.
we covered Nick Saban a little bit. Just him leaving and kind of his impact that he had. I mean, when you go through the list of guys that he had, quarterback, running back, receiver,
the stats are ridiculous.
it's just in the stats. And I think, this might be the only time. So this story, it didn't get a lot of coverage because they lost the game. So Bama loses the national championship to Georgia 2 years ago. With Bryce Young. Jameson Williams tears his ACL. But so this is where I think that, and it's not a knock on Bill, but it's just how, you can't change who you are. And what I think makes Nick Saban so special. So they lose the game to Georgia, and he's sitting there on the podium with Bryce Young, now the quarterback of the Panthers, and Will Anderson, an edge rusher for the Texans. But so the care that he has for these kids, I think is just immeasurable. So the press conference was over, questions are over, and the kids, Bryce Young and Will Anderson, start to stand up. And he, very old person thing to do, but he puts his arm on Bryce and Will, and he's like, sit down, please. And so first time that I've ever seen it, and like you said, 2008, started watching it in 2007, he tells them both to sit down, and he goes off on essentially a monologue talking about, how proud he was of both these kids and how one game doesn't define them and what great leaders and men they were. And it was just it was like, man, like, he could have easily just let them walk off. They go back to but like to take that moment and, that's a tough ankle roll going on. But, I think that speaks a lot to the Nick Saban that people didn't see just on the sideline getting angry when they were up by 45-0. Like, the care that he had for the kids and beyond the field, I think, is something that is immeasurable and missed. And I just think he such an impact on the game, pro and college. And, I mean, who knows, man? What if he signed Drew Brees? He could have never got this.
It could have never happened.
He's got a bozo.
Could have been the Dolphins coach. It could have been Nick versus Bill the whole time.
Bozo medical doctor that tells him to go with Dante Culpepper that allowed the whole thing. But,
yeah. You know what I think's got to be immeasurable is the strength of that man's pancreas. Do you know he eats 2 Little Debbie oatmeal cream pies
cream pie.
every morning? 2, not 1, 2 Little Debbie oatmeal cream pies every morning. His pancreas is a thing of beauty. As a diabetic, I respect that. He doesn't have type 2 diabetes is beyond me, but good for Saban. If he's doing that every day, since he does that and a large coffee, that's disgusting. But good. I mean, I like large black coffee. I'm fine with that. But you're mixing that with 2 cream pies and you're doing that to start every day before you get high blood pressure from yelling.
People were putting the oatmeal cream pies and Diet Coke at the bottom of his statue outside the stadium. It's just like, he didn't die, guys.
Yeah.
Like, he didn't die, but
he'll be fine. Let's give him some time to hang out with his family.
We're gonna get back in the next few days and talk about these NFL games. Bill's gonna win this one. Then we got a really good one tonight.
Knock on wood. Knock on wood.
We'll see, but competitive week of playoffs. Unfortunate for you and your boys, but I'm glad we finally got to do this live. You guys are missing out.
Feel free to send flowers, guys. My funeral's still going on from the Buckeyes.
Lift it up a little bit. Cowboys. I mean, beautiful. Shout out to the Sudbury. We're here in Boston with a fantastic view on the 32nd or the 9th.
Yeah, we'll have to take a picture with the camera.
The 9th floor. But so fantastic area. Thank you to the woman that She was here for a little while, but she cleared out the space for us.
I was gonna bribe her.
Yeah, but that's how dedicated this dude. He was going to bribe her to leave the conference room. It was fantastic.
I had a tenor with her name on it.
She should have said, I don't know if I want to leave. But as always, tackling life together. We love you guys. Love this guy to my left here.
Go Bills.
Let's see where Bill Belichick ends up, man. What if we get some breaking news before we...
Right? How cool would that be? We're not going to get it because Jerry's going to take his time.
Yeah, he's going to...
But feel free to send flowers. I don't like chocolate because I'm diabetic, but I'll take Diet Dr. Pepper to my household, please. If you're a close enough friend, you know that I'm dead, basically, the Cowboys after what just happened. So, yeah, feel free to send it my way. Other gifts I would accept, fish. I'm a big sushi guy, so, yeah. Other than that...
If you have a friend that wants to go on a date with him, he's accepting dates. Like, all sorts... I mean, we accept all sorts of payment here, so...
We're basically dead over here walking, but we're okay. The walk around my neighborhood yesterday after the loss, listening to sad songs, was pathetic. I was like, this is it. This is a low of low for me. I was waiting for the Cold to win. It didn't win, but whatever. But yeah, we'll be back in a couple days to talk some football. A lot of fun. Bren, thanks for having me here.
Yeah, dude, this was awesome. We will talk to you guys soon. Tackle Life Together, family. We'll talk to you soon.
Peace.
Peace. Hell yeah, dude. Beast.
I sent you this Nick Saban thing. I want to put it on our Instagram, but I